lovely morning to be back here on Sports Central.
Thank you very much for joining us. My name is James. We're back here to take a look at the biggest sporting stories from Nigeria, Africa, and of course across the Atlantic. So join us in this right now. What's on the plate to check out the latest events from Montreal, Canada, across the WTA and of course the ATP draws. Away from there, we would look at the Women's Under-20 World Cup. The latest story from there early as of this morning was a clash between France and Nigeria. Back here to tell you how it panned out. Well, last weekend we told you about the return of the Premier League. There was the French Ligue 1 and of course the Bundesliga. For this particular weekend, we'll talk about two more leagues complete Europe's top 5 leagues. We're talking the return of the Italian Serie A, not forgetting the Spanish Primera División Liga. We'll here to tell you the latest stories even as the complexities continue around the European transfer market. Join us and let's tell you about the latest. Well, in typical fashion, let's begin with sports wrap-up, bringing up to speed with the latest news making rounds in this ever-evolving industry. Stay right here with us. Tennis series, and that's what we begin the show this morning. Now let's tell you about one day after beating world #1 Daniel Medvedev. Nick Kyrgios maintained his sky-high level in Montreal to breeze past fellow Aussie Alex De Nino yesterday, Thursday. It was a 6-2, 6-3 victory. The Western champion took flight early as he overwhelmed his opponents to win the first 4 games in 11 minutes. Now, with his forehand firing, Kyrgios won 17 of his first 21 points and to set the tone on Rogers.
In his first ATP head-to-head match with Domina Kyrgios, who next faced 8th seed the Harvard Hookers, who edged outlets for
Ramos Vinolas 6-7, 6-2, 7-6 to reach the quarterfinals. Now in the men's draw, 24th seed Beatrice Haddad-Maia continued her outstanding run of form over the last 2 months, defeating world #1 Iga Swiatek 6-4, 3-6, 7-5 at the round of 16 at the National Bank Open. The win was the 26-year-old's first win over the world #1, and she became the first Brazilian woman to advance to the quarterfinal stage of a WTA 1000 tournament. Now, since the start of June, only Caroline Garcia has won more matches than Haddad-Maia, who has won as 15 for this particular period. Now, let's tell you about Canadian Felix Auger-Aliassime demonstrating his title credentials in Montreal yesterday down in Cameron Norrie. It was a 6-3, 6-4 win for him, reaching the quarterfinals on home soil for the very first time. He's 22, brought the home crowd to their feet throughout his 72 minutes victory as he blasted the 9th seed Brit off the court to improve to 5-1. Their ATP head-to-head series, now the 6th seed, who lost to Norrie in the Los Cabos semi-final last week, is making his 4th appearance at the National Bank Open. And next play, Norway's Kasper Ruud looks to win his first ATP Masters 1000 crown. With this victory, Auger-Aliassime is up to 7th in the Pepperstone ATP race to Turin. Back to the women's draw now. Let's tell you about for the second day in a row, Coco Gauff took the sitting route to victory in a 3rd set tiebreak, defeating #6 Arina Sabalenka 7-5, 4-6, 7-6 to reach the National Bank Open quarterfinals for a second year in a row.
Now, at 3 hours and 11 minutes long, the contest was the longest of Gauff's career so far,
exceeding the 2-hour-57-minute mark. She needed to beat Yulia
Putintseva at Rome in 2021 goals.
Quarterfinal test would be against 15 seeds Simona Halep, who came through against Jill Teichmann 6-2, 7-5. More tennis stories now. Zheng has continued to make waves in her breakthrough season on the WTA Tour. She's 19 from China, started the season ranked number 143, but cracked into the top 50 early in the year, besting 2019 champion and hometown hope Bianca Andreescu 7-5, 5-7, 6-2 in just under 3 hours. Elsewhere, last year's National Bank Open runner Karolina Pliskova prevailed in what was it? Chelsea Tovey
over 2.5 hour showdown with Maya Zakari winning
6-1,
6-7,
6-3. Now with the win from World No. 1 Pliskova, excel win-loss record for the season. Back also last year's Olympic gold medalist Belinda Bencic breezed into the quarterfinals with a 63 minutes comprehensive victory over former world number 1 Gabin Muguruza 6-1, 6-3. Bencic improved to 2-1 over the two-time Grand Slam champion Muguruza with that particular win. Now let's head up to the NBA and look at the latest stories from there. We understand the NBA will honor the legacy of Boston Celtics legend Bill Russell by retiring his number 6 jersey for all 30 teams. The league and the National Basketball Players Association announced yesterday, Thursday, Russell becomes the first player in NBA history to have his jersey retired league-wide. Additionally, all NBA players will wear a commemorative patch on the right shoulder of their jerseys during the 2022-2023 season, and every court will display a shamrock-shaped logo with Russell's number 6 on the sideline near the scorer's table. Starting with the 2022-2023 season, no NBA team will be allowed to issue number 6 to any player. Players who currently wear number 6, such as Los Angeles Lakers star LeBron James, may continue to do so. According to Basketball Reference, 25 players, including James, Kristaps Porzingis, Alex Caruso, Montreal Harrell, and Lou Williams were number 6 last season. Now in boxing, Tyson Fury, who confirmed in April that he was retiring, has announced that he's returning to the boxing ring. The heavyweight champion's preferred opponent is Derek Chisora, whom he already defeated twice in what was a loop-sided fashion. Now there's no deal yet, with the sides 7 figures apart on Chisora's purse. The event is being eyed for December at the Principality Stadium in Cardiff, Welsh. That's according to sources. Now, top-ranking Frank Warren have co-promoted Fury's last 5 fights, but this offer was extended by Gold Star Promotions, the company that handles Fury's meet and greets across the UK. Now, I saw football where Manchester City have agreed a fee of about £11 million, that's 13 million euros plus add-ons with Anderlecht for Spain under 21 defender Sergio Gomez. City were looking at left-sided options after failing to complete a deal for Brighton's Marco Correa, who joined Chelsea last week for £62.5 million. If not promoted to the first team squad, Gomez could be loaned to City Football Group club Girona in Spain. He came through the Barca Academy before joining Borussia Dortmund. Gomez, 21, then spent 2 years on loan at Huesca in 2019 before joining Anderlecht, where he played under former City captain Vincent Kompany. Now, to the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup, where Nigeria's Falconets beat France 1-0 earlier today in the Group D opening match of the World Cup in Costa Rica. Now, the only goal was scored late into the second half of the match by Falconets' Flourish Sebastian. Facing a team made up of mostly Olympique Lyon and Paris Saint-Germain players, Falconets coach Chris Danjuma opted to play a fluid 4-4-2 with the team's top scorer and qualifying Flourish Sebastian, part of a 2-woman strike force. The Falconets started the match very well, exhibiting a level of technical ability that overwhelmed their French opponents as they dominated possession and passed the ball quite slickly around with ease. Now, midfield maestro Esther Yenizide had a lot to do with tidy touches and intelligent pass selections, but victory was always sure for the Nigerians. And that's the sports wrap up this morning. We'll get talking on this and a lot more after this. Thomas, stay right here with us. Be right back at you.
Oh my goodness, I mean, this has just been an absolutely electric start.
Okay.
very fine morning to be back here. Thanks for staying right here with us on Sports Central here in Spectrum Television. And the men are back on the table, Arizona. And of course, Blyden coming back now. Good to have you join us, guys.
Always a pleasure.
TGI.
Mari's looking at me.
This man just decides to oppress everybody.
Yeah.
You know, but the funny thing is, I think Bright has got an upper hand today. You know, he comes in with the all black vibe, you know, the Black Lives Matter thing.
No,
You know,
I'm not really
It goes
sure.
to show that the sausage will be from Italy.
oh, nice!
Yeah, well, the sausage would be from Italy because the Italian Serie A is back this particular weekend.
I see.
And that's the same story for the Spanish Primera División Liga. But before we talk about all of that in football, let's begin with tennis, guys. And we talk about Nick Kyrgios, and the man won't just let us be. He continues to give us something to talk about day after day. The latest story is that the man is seen of countryman Alex de Minaur, his 15th win in the last 16 games in the Wimbledon final. What manner of man is Nick?
I like the question, the form of his life, and I think he's enjoying it the best way possible, and he should class. You know, yesterday when we talked about his win against Daniel Medvedev, I particularly said that de Minaur compared to Medvedev is a weaker opponent, and then he dispatched de Minaur in the finest of fashions. If you'd ask me, he dominated the game from start to finish. And that clearly shows you, you know, the amount of energy and consistency that he's bringing into the game. 15 wins in his last 16 games, and we'll always talk about the only games lost so far. That's the loss against Novak Djokovic in the Wimbledon final. But since then, this man has been clearly impervious in the way he plays. You know, he's still adding his skill and style to the game, but also added discipline, and also he's also been focused in trying to win games and you know, win break points as much as possible. And that clearly has been the turning point for this particular man. Gradually moving into, you know, he's now in the quarterfinals of the competition, and I believe he's chasing another ATP tour level title. He's won 2 so far, and clearly should be looking at winning the third, maybe winning the fourth in Cincinnati as well, and beating up to the US Open. So for me, right, this man has clearly been impervious, and he deserves a lot of credit.
Right now, swept through Washington last week, winning the singles and the doubles. Now he faces Hubert Hurkacz, who saw of Albert Ramos Vinolas in straight sets to reach this particular stage. The kind of form Nick Kyrgios is in at the moment, Hubert Hurkacz, is that competition?
Surely it is, Bright. Hubert Hurkacz has been around. I remember last year was about top 10, top 13, thereabout, performing quite well. A little not very consistent, not the biggest of name, just like we talked about in the Rublev at the time. But they have a way of nicking in, making it difficult for big opponents. They seem like the spoilers you could think of, not the biggest of names at the moment in terms of tennis, in terms of consistent performances. But be that as it may, it's a big game, and I think Nick ought to be careful. But looking at the run of form that's coming from Nick, that's quite exciting. Mari did talk about that performance and the fact that Nick is really very serious about going all out, getting those results. It's going to be a thriller for me, an interesting game, but Nick ought to be very careful because when Hubert get hookers, it could be very difficult.
Oh no, like
poetry are
yeah,
basically
well, this one is waxing lyrical now. Right, so very quickly, Mari, let's wrap up with the Nick Kyrgios story. Considering the competition Hubert Hurkacz brings and the quality left in the draw, can he go all the way here in Montreal?
Right, I think it's going to take a lot. You know, first of all, I'll start with saying that Nick should not in any way discredit any opponents and then maybe overlook any opponents, because right now we're in a very critical stage of the competition and you lose, you go back home. So I don't think you should look down on any opponent judging from his form. You know, we'll see how Felix Auger-Aliassime, you know, the local hero right now, and he's pushing to make his, you know, his fans proud.
Yeah, and Cameron Norrie.
Yesterday, so and then we're talking about Jack Drapp as well into the next round of competition, and then a couple of other players as well. We talk about Hubert Hurkacz. So I see for you the competition, the quality right there is still enough, you know, to upset Nick Kyrgios, as long as that is if he does not, you know, get down. So I feel he should keep his head up high as much as possible. You know, still play tennis as consistent as possible and never lose focus, because you know when players enjoy this run of form, at some point they get complacent. You know, they let, you know, the hype get into their head. I mean, Igor Swiatek left the WhatsApp group. I mean, 37 games unbeaten, and all of a sudden it's been a downturn for her. So I think for Nick, he should maintain, you know, keep his shoulders, you know, above and all of that, and then try to be considered as possible. Maybe we'll team with a third title, right?
No, for moments I thought you'd say keep his head above water level. All right, now let's talk about the stunner from the WTA still in Montreal. Beatrice Haddad-Maia became the first Brazilian woman to reach the quarterfinals of a WTA 1000 event, and look at the caliber and the quality of the opponent. Iga Swiatek, the current world #1, her first win at 26 against any player ranked at #1. Iga Swiatek, we've been talking about, you know, the inconsistency, you know, what has capitulated our game over the last 6 weeks since that 37-match unbeaten streak ended at the 3rd round in Wimbledon at the hands of Alize Cornet from France. How does she get back that balance?
Well, I don't know, Bright. I don't know. I can talk for Iga. But sometimes I look at football, for example. You get to a point where you're no more in form. So sometimes you need to take a break, relax, because the more you try to win and then you get to lose, it gets into your head. And the moment it gets into your head, your confidence gets dashed. And before you know it, everyone is beating you. And it seemed like a recurring situation right now with Iga Swiatek. But the surprising thing, because it was a shocker for me, the surprising thing was that it had to come from Brazil. A woman from Brazil getting it, not Europe. Most often it's going to be Europe. You expect good competition, but not Brazil. If it goes to South America, probably we might talk about Argentina, but this time around it has to be Brazil. Big impression as far as I'm concerned. Good game it was, beating Iga Swiatek. And right, Jim, at this point, it seems like everyone is set to beat Iga Swiatek. We might just see a nosedive in the fall of Iga Swiatek.
Right, now let's leave Iga Swiatek and talk about Coco Gauff.
Right.
Now, for the youngster, has been building blocks for her, reached the French Open final where she lost to Iga Swiatek we're talking about right now, but ever since then she hasn't looked back. She's been putting it one game at a time, building those blocks, and it's coming together for us now. Reached the quarterfinals where she takes in 15-seeded Simona Halep, who was winner against Jill Teichmann, 6-2, 7-5. Talk to us about the lady or the young star. She was Coco Gauff.
Growing up to become a lady.
Absolutely, and fine one at that. Talk to us about Coco Gauff and the progression so far.
Right, fine stuff for the youngster, and she's learned, fame the hard way. Broke into the tennis scene at a very young age, and then the energy around her, the attention got into her head, and then it was just a downturn of form for her. But I believe that she's gradually developed and matured, as it is since the last 2 years, and I love the fact that she's decided to be very consistent as much as possible. She's played tennis at the very, very highest level. So, Sabalenka yesterday, a player, more than 5 years older than her, and I think that clearly shows you the quality that she brings in. She's also added consistency into her game, which was lacking, especially at the start of the year. And I feel she's been, good enough, and it's good that she's gotten into the next round of competition, and that she's played. This Grand Slam is definitely being in her home country. Talk about the USA, so a lot of expectations from her, from the US fans, and for her as well. So I'm looking forward to how she continues. She faces Simona Halep, who has had a similar story as hers, inconsistency, a little bit here, a little there. Just hope that she comes up, clutch in that particular game. But for me, I tip Gauff to go to the next round of competition.
Right now, for Coco Gauff, so for Arina Sabalenka, there was also a famous win for Zheng. Well, playing outside the top 100, but look how far she's gone, cracking into the top 50. Well, in the latest story, she saw Bianca Andreescu to reach the business end in Toronto. There was also a famous win for Karolina Pliskova here in Toronto. But time would fellas, if we're going to do well in Toronto, let's leave there. For the UK, very quickly and blindly, let's talk about your favorite man, the Gypsy King. Well, earlier this year, we had news that he's retiring from the sports that has brought him so much fame and fortune, though that cast, there were lots of aspersions cast as to how long he will stay out, because it's all about the money, and that has been dangled. The man has rushed back, but the peak of the opponent has gotten many talking. We're talking Derek Chisora. The man Tyson has beaten twice already in what was a loop-sided fight. It was all Tyson's, dictating the pace of those particular bouts. But away from there, let's talk about his return. Talk about the Gypsy King. He's a picking an easy opponent, because many were expecting. We're talking AJ versus Usyk just around the corner, and then a potential unification bout between Tyson Fury and the winner between that AJ Usyk fight. Is it picking some easy opponents for warm-up before the big unification bout?
I always like the Gypsy King. He makes the media bubble. One time he says, I'm out, not contesting, not fighting again. And he's saying that at the peak of event, when the whole world is waiting for Anthony Joshua versus Usyk. And we're talking about the
he delves in and steals the attention.
Exactly. He tries to get the moment all the time. But this is the sad part about it. Just early this year, Chisora said he's retiring. He's fought his last fight, I think, with Parker and Parker had beaten Chisora. And the whole world was talking about Chisora. Yes, you've done a lot, you've done well in this sport. Good to say goodbye at this time. And Tyson Fury is coming out of retirement. Chisora is coming out of retirement to fight Tyson Fury. Beauty, the retirement fight for me. Exceptional stuff for me. I'm happy for once. Tyson Fury is coming back to fight because I was expecting him to come back to fight. Chisora too is doing that because fame is important, money is important. But in the long run, it set the pace for what we've been looking forward to, the unification fight. Because if he gets to fight that fight, definitely there'll be a demand to fight the next fight. Anthony Joshua is facing Usyk on the 20th, and that will set the outcome for it.
Let's look at something, Mari, very quickly. What's in there for Chisora? Well, the man has been beaten, battered, time and time again over the last, couple of years now. And many were, I'm sure his family, was delighted that Daddy will come back to rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this man is out of retirement to fight Tyson Fury, man who's beaten him twice, mercilessly. What's in there for Chisora?
Bright, not missing words, money. According to the reports we get, it's a 7-figure. And then nobody frowns and says no to 7 figures, especially in dollars.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll come out of any retirement to fight.
But he knows he would be beaten.
Surely he knows.
He knows definitely. But the sweet thing about the thing is no matter how you're beaten, you still get your money home. You take your money home.
It reminds me of that Floyd Mayweather Jr. fight with Conor McGregor. See, McGregor was beaten, but that's the highest he has ever earned. Like, he has never earned anywhere near that figure in his MMA.
That was the same thing that made him want to go into the fight.
And afterwards, he became a top millionaire in sport.
Yeah.
He invested the money in a particular venture and gained a lot from it.
Yeah.
And it can change a boxer's life. There's a particular boxer, I've forgotten his name now. The whole world knows him. When you need a boxer to prep with, he's the one. He's never got up in the ranking. But always fighting the top boxers and always getting beaten all the time.
Well, at the end of the day, if you need money, you got to be beaten. Looking forward to the fights, right? And like you said, I think Chisora comes in as a chin-up fight for Tyson Fury because I definitely believe that he has intentions of unifying the division. As he's trying to just prep up and waiting the result of the Anthony Joshua Usyk fight, and maybe tries to see how he'd be able to get prepared as possible and then fight and even fight heavyweight division, right?
Right. How sweet being beaten for money can be.
I haven't tried it. I haven't tried it before, so I can't tell you. There's no experience in that aspect. Beaten for money. But all right, so let's see how that pans out. But the big one, Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk is the rematch. And of course, many looking forward to what will happen at the end of that particular potential that throws up. The fight is built for Saudi Arabia, Jeddah, to be very particular, August 20, which is days away from that. Next weekend, or next Friday, we'll be talking about us, so that particular bout.
Right.
All right, so very quickly, let's hit the breaks here, and when we return, we talk about football stories from European stories, the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup. That's what we'll enjoy right about now. Nigeria versus France. Delightful.
Oceana Utre, but it will be from Bashir, which is the left foot, and it will go.
What a way to begin the conversation. Massive victory for Team Nigeria, Mari.
Right.
Against a more fancied France team. You look at the complexity of that French, the composition, if you like, made up of players who ply their trade with Olympique Lyonnais, European champions, and of course PSG as well. But Floris Sebastian, and that goes 6 minutes to the end of regulation time, made nonsense of all the quality and the talk from the French under 20 team.
Yeah, right. Floris Sebastian flourished in the game yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah, she showed class. She was a difference in the game, and she put up a fine performance. But kudos to Chris Danjuma, the way he set up the team to play against France yesterday. 4-4-2 formation, fluid, and also steady and resolute at the back. You watch the game yourself. You see how defensively resolute the Falconets were all through the game. Although they were tested a few times, but bulk of the time they had a lot to defend, and then they made sure that they kept the French ladies at bay all through that particular game. I had to take a fine strike from Floris Sebastian to see off the game. I think it's a morale boosting win for them, judging from the fact that heading into the game, they were less fancy to win the game, and then the odds, particularly from bookmakers, clearly showed that the French ladies were the favorites to get a win. But well, football is that kind of game where the impossible always happens, and it showed yesterday for the Falcons. I think it's good for them, good for their energy. Next game against South Korea, should come in good. I just hope that they maintain the composure, maintain the momentum, and keep building from there. Then play Canada in the third group game. Currently, they're group winners, and I hope they stay like that until the end of group matches, qualify for the next round, and just continue building from there. In the morning, we're talking about Chris Danjuma saying that he's building this team for the future, not just for the under 20 level, but potential players that would make up the setup at the Super Falcons level, and that for me is a brilliant idea, and kudos to them.
Right now, let's look at the journey ahead. Fine start for them, but they can't afford to take their foot off the gas in the games against South Korea and then Canada.
Well, first of all, Bright, this is a wonderful team. Remember during the qualifiers, we saw them big teams. At some point, teams surrendered. Yet we can say these teams were not big nations. Congo, Central African Republic. I remember the game that they played away at Brazzaville. Yeah. They scored 4-0. On a whereby Congo said, we're not coming for the return match. So they've been that dominant throughout the qualifiers. And I knew something big was happening with this team. The beauty of it is, beating France is that it's a big statement in the competition. Look, USA had beaten Ghana 3-0. The first African representative in this competition, and now the Falconets are up. They've beaten the French team. French, top club or top country in the world when it has to do with women's football, and it's a statement. South Korea are in for it as far as I'm concerned. It's going to be a top game. Maybe the best South Korea might get from my standpoint will be a draw. I'm not going ahead of the team, but it's such a quality side. Let me delve into one aspect. One of the beauties I love about this team, and what Mari had talked about, the coach Danjuma, talking about building for the future, is this has been a concern in Nigeria. Because right now, you look at the academies in the country, right? How are we sporting the players? The league is non-functional as far as I'm concerned. Not a quality league for female football. And the only way Nigeria can get these players, raw talents, and show them to the world and get to the Super Eagles, Super Falcons is through these competitions. And it's adding up. But the problem I always have is, you will check it out. Danjuma will come out and they promote him to probably the Super Falcons. Instead of letting him be at the under 20 level, culture these teams, get more talent, because in Nigeria, the problem is not talent. The problem is opportunities and having the right hands to handle them. And every time you see this happens, a coach is changed from under 20 to another level. But we look at the Argentine national team over the years, talking about the under 20 level. They had a certain Packerman that was leading the side for so many years. And you look at the quality of players that have represented the country. I think Nigeria has to do that, even in the male category.
That's something. It's been a massive concern over the years. We've dominated age-grade football across the women's cadre and, of course, the men's cadre. But the issue is that of progression. How many of these girls, how many of the boys from age-grade football get to play for the senior national team? That's usually the concern. I like the statement credited to Christopher Danjuma saying, well, building a team not just for now, but for the future.
player that's set to join is Desmond Dorje, the Italian left back. But they got the key players already. Richarlison, what's his name now? Perisic came in. Have got a lot to do and a lot of segments to prove against Chelsea. Look at the game they played against Southampton. It was a domineering win, 4 goals to 1, and their top players did not even score in that game. Son didn't score, Kane didn't score. So looking forward to the Chelsea game. It's a London derby, right? So a lot is expected. The pride is also at stake. Pool power is also at stake. So I think with the way Chelsea have been, I don't think they'll be able to be ready for what Tottenham will bring to them.
Well, Bright, let me add this. I think, as I was saying, it's a big game for both sides.
Right.
Chelsea didn't perform quite well in the first leg. So now it's time for them to stem authority. Show the complaining fans, all of them, that they could play football and they could play at that highest level. Now, it seems to be all about Liverpool, Manchester City. But for Tottenham, it's a big test for the quality of players they've bought. But so I want to see him perform against Chelsea. And all these players, how they perform. By then, we'll know if they'll be able to finish in the top 3 or probably contest for the title.
Yeah, potentially that would be another conversation, because these two have been locked in the conversation of which would be a worthy third force behind Manchester City, Liverpool, Manchester City, depending on how it ends this particular season. Massive game expected from the Premier League. La Liga also returns, but Mari, the story is beyond Barca.
Yeah.
Sevilla, Real Betis, we understand a couple of other teams there.
Alcorcon, Mallorca.
Struggling, battling to balance their books just to register new acquisitions.
Right, quite sad. And then what we've been hearing lately has been Barca not being able to register players.
The biggest of the bunch.
Yeah, Barca. So Sevilla still yet to register a new signing. Same story for Real Betis, and then for Mallorca and Alcorcon as well. And then a couple of La Liga fans are accusing fingers to Javier Tebas, and they feel he's not been able to help the club post-COVID. Because a lot of things happen, post-COVID to La Liga clubs financially. Yeah. Look at the Valencia; they had to sell off bulk of the key players to generate funds.
Same story for
Atletico Madrid. Villarreal as well had to do the same thing. Barca and Real Madrid are just the only teams, to actually keep due to the money they have. So I think it's been difficult for La Liga teams, since post-COVID. So Tebas have really not helped them financially, and a lot of football fans believe that he's not done enough. So I'm looking forward to how things will turn out. But I think for the La Liga fans, they should not expect their team's new signings yet, especially not in the first window, because teams are still trying to generate funds, sell a few players, offset their wage bill just to register their players. So Barca, it's the same story for them. Lewandowski might not play this weekend. Rafinha, Frank Kessie, Christensen as well. So they'll probably play with last season's squad as they keep preparing and finding funds for the new season as well.
Let me add this, Brian. I think it's a pointer to what clubs need to do moving forward in the nearest future, because we're not having these stories with Real Madrid. What has Real Madrid been able to do that other teams can't do this so far? One of the things they do is they try to spot young talents early, talented players, and they draft them into the team, look into the nearest future, while they're solidifying their team with the mainstays that they have, the big players. And most clubs are depending on buys to come. You have to balance the shit.
Yeah,
look for real talent.
That makes sense, because Real Madrid don't panic buy.
Yeah, absolutely.
The buy they bought Eduardo Camavinga, was quite a steal, under 40 million.
Right.
But this man Aurelien Tchouameni,
while
they still have Toni Kroos, they've got Casemiro, and of course they've got Luka Modric, which are regular starters. So the teams they're buying from don't feel like, well, the need is a do or die for them. If they don't have these players, it's dead.
Yeah. And you don't get to buy them when they're fully developed.
Yeah.
Talent is there to see. Pick the talent first at a cheaper rate. They're not well developed. Clubs are so happy you're coming for these players, and develop them, give them opportunity to develop. But the key word is look for the talent, and that's what Madrid has done.
I think it made a lot of sense. Moreover, Bright, you look at Madrid's business in the last couple of seasons. They don't buy 5, 7, 10 players in transfer window. They just calm down, look at few positions, they need reinforcement, sign 2, sign 3, and rest. Same story for next season, so they don't overload their wage bill, and that's a brilliant idea. Florentino Perez deserves a lot from that angle. And they also don't just rush for players. They don't They don't try to, over convince you to join them. Look at the Mbappe story.
Well, it's only one player they tried to.
Yeah, Mbappe. And then it didn't come through for them. And it's a win for them.
Because, PSG offers something crazy. Something really crazy.
The quality of the guy's quality.
You need to go back and check out the content of that Kylian Mbappe deal, and then you'd know why I've used the word crazy 3 times now. Kylian Mbappé. Thank you very much, guys, for joining.
Thank you very much.
We're back here tomorrow.
Yeah, 9:30 a.m.
We
Battle
battle.
of the
Yeah,
fans.
we do battle.
Battle.
And enjoy the heat, right?
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
enjoy the heat.
You battle and you enjoy the heat.
Yeah,
From the kitchen.
well, you will enjoy the heat as well.
Yeah?
You'll enjoy the heat as well.
I don't like the heat. Thank you very much, guys. Joining the conversation this morning. Enjoy the weekend. The conversation beyond the screen continues on social media. Spectrum TVNg on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Check us out on YouTube as well, Spectrum TV, and our website is www.spectrumtv.ng. Enjoy the weekend. We're out. Have fun.